Utah, the 45th state admitted to the Union, today proudly casts all of its 40 delegate votes for President Donald J. Trump and his newly announced running mate, my friend and colleague, JD Vance.
All right, folks, emergency video here, breaking news. We are watching the RNC play out live, and it turns out that Donald Trump has officially just made his long-awaited pick for vice president, and it is none other than Ohio Senator JD Vance. And let's talk about that, because I'm sure this is a pick that makes a lot of people happy. It also makes a lot of people unhappy. I'll address it and tell you what I really think about it later in this video. But first, let us read the official statement from Donald J. Trump on Truth Social announcing Vance as the VP pick. So here we go. It says, after lengthy deliberation and thought and considering the tremendous talents of many others, I have decided that the person best suited to assume the position of the Vice President of the United States is Senator JD Vance of the great state of Ohio. JD honorably served our country in the Marine Corps, graduated Ohio State University in 2 years, summa cum laude, and is a Yale Law School graduate where he was the editor of the Yale Law Journal and president of the Yale Law Veterans Association. JD's book Hillbilly Elegy became a major bestseller and movie as it has championed the hard-working men and women of our country. JD has had a very successful business career in technology and finance, and now during the campaign will be strongly focused on the people he fought so brilliantly for, the American workers and farmers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, and far beyond. So there you have it. JD Vance, the pick for VP. Couple notable things to say about JD, and I think the first thing that comes to mind, and even Trump mentioned it in his statement, is that JD's from the Midwest, right? JD is a senator from Ohio. He kind of carries that similar brand of Trumpian Midwestern populism. Obviously, Trump here trying to make a play for the states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, that very blue wall that he cracked in 2016. And, you know, traditional Republicans, and this might be part of the thinking here, traditional Republicans have struggled in that part of the country. They have a hard time appealing to the union workers, to the white working class, but Donald Trump, obviously, someone who can break through. I think you're seeing in this pick, Trump in many ways is doubling down on those voters. He's doubling down on the very people who got him elected in the first place. And, you know, there you have it. That kind of leads the logical conclusion of anyone on the short list really to be JD Vance. At the same time, the pick is a little bit surprising because, you know, I really thought a month ago it was strongly looking like it was going to be North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Glenn Youngkin in the past couple of weeks has made a big surge, but I think a big factor that may have played into this last minute decision is actually the assassination attempt, obviously, on Saturday. And you'd have to imagine that's going to change everything about the way Donald Trump is thinking about this election, because what it seemed like before, and the reason why we had picks like, again, Youngkin, Burgum, Rubio, people like that, is I think before all of this, Trump was really looking for someone who would help him win in the election, right? He's trying to make a play for the suburban moderates, the voter demographic that perhaps he struggles in. But of course, the big concern of someone like, say, a Doug Burgum was that, yes, may they be a decent pick for VP? Yes. Are they a safe running mate? Yes. But at the same time, not exactly the type of person that you would want taking over if Trump goes down, he has to leave office, or frankly, anything happens to him, right? And so in many ways, I think what Trump might have been thinking here is assassination insurance. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but that is honestly the truth. And you'd have to imagine it's a reality Trump is thinking of. He's thinking now, okay, well, you know, if I go down, and who has to take the reins? I don't want it to be some soft milquetoast conservative just because they helped me win the election. And by the way, given what has happened, I'm already in a pretty good position for the election. Here, I think in many ways is Trump selflessly thinking to the future. And that, of course, leads to JD Vance. Now, at the same time, you could make an electability argument. Obviously, like I said, Vance is from that Midwestern part of the country that, you know, Trump needs to win, obviously, and it's always contentious. They're obviously swing states. But at the same time, I would point out I don't think that electability is necessarily JD Vance's strong suit. Yes, he did manage to win the Ohio Senate primary, but having followed it, it wasn't because JD ran the strongest campaign. It was really just because the other candidates collapsed around him. And then on top of that, he won the general election in Ohio, but the margin there was not super impressive, right? So that's not a knock on JD Vance. That's just an assessment and analysis to say this pick is not about electability. It is about the issues. It is about, frankly, again, in my opinion, first of all, doubling down on the very group of people who got him elected. That is a good part. He's signaling to them. But even more so than that, JD Vance has been one of the most conservative U.S. senators, one of the most Trumpian U.S. senators that we currently have in the entire delegation. He is doubling down on that and in many ways, again, going for that populist appeal that got him elected in 2016. Now, that said, I think we also have to address the counter arguments around JD Vance, because obviously, while there is a wing of the MAGA America First movement that loves JD, they see him as the heir apparent, the successor to Donald Trump, the guy who really gets it. He understands that the new wave of conservatism or the Republican Party is not just about the old George Bush dialectic of politics, right? We understand how things have changed. We understand what our new base is, all of that. At the same time, there is the group of people who still doesn't trust JD Vance, right? They say, well, he was anti-Trump in 2016. He voted for Evan McMullin. He said all these things. And do we really trust that he has come around? So, on that front, I will say, there's nothing I can do 100% to prove to you that we can fully trust JD Vance, right? Obviously, to a degree, those are legitimate concerns. And, it really is a subjective question. Like, do you trust him? Do you not? Based on, is he sincere? Is he not? But what I will say is a couple of things. First of all, JD has explained personally a big reason he actually came around to Trump and sort of a more conservative viewpoint on his pro-worker populism was because he converted to Catholicism, I believe, around 2019. And then, on top of that, the platform that JD ran on in the Ohio Senate primary, it was by far the best one in terms of the issues. It was tough on immigration, much tougher actually on immigration than many of the mainline Republicans. And that's a big thing, right? It is very aligned with Trump on that. It's very aligned with Trump on the issues like protectionism, like nationalism, right? He is that kind of Republican. But on top of that, I would point out, okay, I get it, and I understand why it was a concern, obviously, in the 2022 Ohio Senate primary. But JD Vance has been in the Senate 2 years. Has he backstabbed us? Has he betrayed us? Or has he largely stayed in line, with the very things that got him elected? So, obviously, as someone who followed JD Vance really closely since the beginning of his primary, there's nothing I can say necessarily to disprove that you don't trust him, right? That is your personal choice. But if you want my read on it, I, fully believe that he is with it, on the issues. Like, he gets it. He understands it. I know some people who have had interactions with him, and in many ways, the ideological conversion has been genuine. But that's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong on that, right? But at the same time, I would point out that could be true of any of the potential Trump VP picks, right? Obviously, someone like Marco Rubio, for instance, very clearly, he, when you look at him on the issue since 2016, he actually came around, right? He's actually been pretty supportive of Trump, and a lot of people haven't paid attention to that since 2016. But at the same time, you can make the argument, well, I see him as an opportunistic politician. He's blowing where the wind goes, right? And the same could be said about Doug Burgum. It could be said about Glenn Youngkin. Basically everyone on the VP shortlist has passed words criticizing Trump at some point in some way. And, even someone like Vivek Ramaswamy, it took a long time for the MAGA base to even come around and trust him. And some people still don't. But, for a long time, people were like, oh, he's connected to George Soros. Oh, he used to be a little bit more milquetoast or moderate and, less favorable towards Trump when he was the CEO of his pharma company, right? So this is all to say, ultimately, no one is perfect. And I understand the reasons, but at the same time, like, if we're going to purity spiral about every different potential VP, we're never going to get anywhere, right? Because if you want to play this game with Vance, fair enough, but at least play it for all the other VP picks as well. So overall, like I said, JD Vance, I think a solid choice on the issues. At the same time, like I said, I don't think he's this electoral juggernaut. Is he going to get Trump a ton of new votes? I'm not sure. It does at least show to the Midwestern states that, again, are the big swing states in this election that, hey, Trump cares about you. Trump is looking at you. Trump is considering you when he chose his VP. So on that front, I think it's a good pick, and that might help him on the electability front. But at the same time, JD, in my opinion, not the most charismatic guy. Like, he's well-spoken, but he does have certain likability issues. You know, he did really struggle in that Ohio Senate primary. I don't necessarily think he is the electoral juggernaut that someone like Glenn Youngkin might have been. But at the same time, again, like I said, my read on it, it's not really about that at this point, right? This is now bigger than, oh, you know, get a couple extra independent voters. No, this is really now at this point about assassination insurance. And, you know, beyond that, also just looking to who your successor, who your heir apparent is. Trump is obviously old already to begin with. So on that front, I think JD Vance, overall, a pretty solid pick for VP. So yeah, there you have it, folks. There's the news. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. We will be live likely tonight covering the RNC and all of that stuff play out. So be sure to let me know your thoughts. But until next time, God bless and peace.